Hello, my name is Andy Cole. I'm a retired research animal nutritionist with the USDA ARS at Bushland, Texas. I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska today to give a talk on methane production in feedlots and the factors that are affecting those methane production. As most of you are probably aware, methane is a very critical, important issue to many people. A lot of times feed yards are blamed for a lot of the methane produced by the U.S. beef cattle herd, but in reality, methane from beef cattle feedlots only makes up about 8% of the total methane production from the U.S. beef cattle herd. Now, when we talk about a feed yard, however, there are lots of different sources of methane at the feed yard. The biggest source, of course, is the animals through their enteric fermentation within the digestive tract. We also have the pen surface, where the manure pack can be a good source of methane and other greenhouse gases. We also have retention ponds. Most feed yards have some retention pond to collect runoff from rainfall events and snowfall events, and it can be a small source of methane, as well as manure stockpiles, which may exist in many feed yards. Also, a lot of feed yards will have some pasture areas or grazing land that may also be a source or actually a sink of methane. It may take up methane. And then finally, you have the other sources such as your feed mill or vehicles that are used at the feed yard. Now, when we talk about methane production from the animal itself, we call that enteric methane production because it's produced within the digestive tract of the animal by bacteria that are in the rumen, or the first two compartments of the stomach. There are a number of factors that affect these emissions, and including those would be, for example, how much the animals eat, their dry matter intake. What is the source of grain in the diet? Is it barley or corn? For example, barley produces less methane, produces more methane, than corn. Also, how is the grain processed? If we steam flake the grain, we tend to reduce the amount of methane that's produced by the animal. Also, the amount of roughage that's in the diet and the quality of that roughage can affect fermentation in the rumen and thus affect methane production. Also, fat concentration in the diet, the use of byproducts such as distillers grains or glycerin, and the use of other additives such as monensin and other ionophores. And then when we're talking about methane loss from the manure pack, things like the temperature, the season of the year, and the amount of organic matter or volatile solids that are on that manure pack will have an effect. The nice thing is, over the years, we've been able to greatly improve the production of beef cattle in feed yards. Our average daily gains have gone from 2.5 pounds a day to 4 pounds a day. Our feed conversions have gone from 8 pounds to less than 6. So in that process, we've actually been able to increase the greenhouse efficiency of the animal. And if we look at this data here, we see that over the years, the amount of methane that we produce per pound of carcass weight has decreased by about 10 to 15% over the last 30 years. And this is due solely to improvements in production efficiency. Now, one interesting thing we don't hear a lot about, but methane's been produced by ruminant animals for millions of years. Today, the largest population of ruminant animals in North America are cattle. But in 1860, it was primarily the buffalo or the bison. And if we look at actually the amount of methane that was produced by the buffalo herd, for example, in 1860, it's about the same as the amount of methane that's produced by the beef cattle herd in the United States today. So we really haven't had much of a net increase in methane production by ruminants in North America. In conclusion, we can tell that the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions in the cattle production is the cow-calf herd. That's because of their numbers and because of the diet they consume. The carbon footprint, in contrast to what many people will say, is actually per unit of body weight gain is less in grain-fed animals than it is in pasture-fed animals. We also have the beef enteric methane production is about the same as it was in the 1860 bison herd. And over the last 30, 40 years, we've made significant progress, but we will have to make more progress in the future to meet the demands of regulators and U.S. citizens.